This one is not exactly poetry. I don't really know what it is, but it's called An Unusual Visit. Regardless of the previous rejections, the writer returned to his pen in reluctant fever. Paradoxical scenarios raced through his mind faster than he could put them down on paper. How could he prove that nobody was listening to his thoughts? Paranoid at the thought that secret agents at play had implanted a surveillance device in his brain behind his eyes, the writer duct taped his eyes shut in hopes that those watching would think that the device was broken. The writer waited in vain for someone to break through the front door to take him away from his work. On his desk were stacks of books ready to be read. The Act of Creation and The Ghost in the Machine by Arthur Koestler. The History of Western Philosophy by Bertrand Russell. The book on the taboo against knowing who you are by Alan Watts. And a recently purchased copy of the oversized red book by Carl Jung, which had just been stepped on by his purple cats. Presto and pronto. A Mario Bava film marathon was on television that day, and Danger Diabolique was playing at the moment. There was a knock at the door. The writer's heart jumped into his throat as he took a pregnant pause before asking, "Who is it?" "You know who it is," answered a dark voice. "What do you want?" whispered the writer. "All of your writings, of course," said the stranger behind the door. "What impossible nonsense is this?" exclaimed the now shivering writer. "Open the door," the enigmatic voice replied. Sweat was now dripping into the writer's duct-tape eyes as he slowly rose up and fumbled around to unlock the door. As soon as he opened the door, the unknown person ripped the duct tape from the writer's eyes, and he found himself staring directly into the eyes of his own self. The writer dropped the pen he was holding in his hand and gasped for breath. "Your writings," said the man who looked exactly like the writer. "Give them to me now." The writer hurried over to his desk and grabbed a huge pile of papers. The writer quickly handed everything he wrote to himself. The visitor took the writer's life work into his hands and turned around to exit through the doorway, slowly walked out, and shut the door behind him. The writer's visitor never returned. An unusual visit. It's called NonLinear Alignments.
Just a couple of cold turkeys drinking coffee in the afterlife. The first force of the fiercest sorcerers was just seconds away as the day began to die, and night was born. The light was torn from our eyes. We despised the darkness at once, but we soon grew used to the abuse, and we're now afraid of the light. They tricked us into believing, so I'll be leaving because I is living. And me is loving every moment of movement from the Dada to the postmodern futuristic slick wizard with my hand on the leash of a lizard twice the size of Godzilla. Size of Godzilla. The surreal thriller from Manila, or actually Angeles City to make it exactly. Approximately 11 seconds to total telepathy in your proximity. The point of singularity. Plus the fact that I like to build abstract structures strictly for the street scientists in the 12-story laboratory buildings. I was wide awake, completely exhausted. The bananas melted on the soft watches, destined for disintegration. A line of ears. Non-linear alignments. This next piece is a short piece about the description of ZipZap poetry.
Stixoplix is ZipZap, the telepathic, telekinetic, teleporter, reporter on the scene, the dream of coming of ZipZap, the future of riff-rant poetry. ZipZap, the zany zytologist. ZipZap is careful construction and spontaneous composition at the same time. ZipZap is freestyle improvisation, meets instant gratification, civilization, not to be confused with bebop, jazz, or hip-hop. ZipZap is the new movement of expression. ZipZap. There's a short piece I wrote. Mike was here for this one. I wrote it in my head at work at the Allen County Public Library in the storage department. Life is not a rehearsal. You only get one take, there's no reversal. The pioneer is controversial. Humanity is not a commercial, so take it personal. I break it down to the biological, physical, but we can take it to the spiritual with my lyrical mental, that is virtual. Reality of the ritual. The invincible individual that's incredible. The end is inevitable, but the internal is eternal. Life is not a rehearsal. There's another short piece I wrote at the Allen County Public Library in the storage department. Or Material Support Services is the new name for it. Painting pain ain't plain. To express but not necessarily to entertain. To confess but not necessarily to complain. Sometimes to maintain is not sane. These feelings that no container can contain. To break away the chain and never feel the same. As we end the game from whence we came and exchange our real names. Painting pain.